Welcome back, Pokemon fans. Angel of the Night here. We've got another viewer battle coming your way against Hugo. Now, of course, Hugo and I, we decided to do a Regulation H double battle, and the team that I decided to bring was a rental code I found off of another YouTube channel. We decided to bring in Medicham and, of course, Gyarados. They have Volcarona and, of course, Serperior. Now, of course, Serperior does have the contrary, and that's kind of a big thing right now. Any kind of stat-lowering moves or any kind of stat-lowering abilities are actually going to boost in a difference of that Pokemon. So in comes the Fake Out from the Medicham into the Serperior, and of course there's the Quiver Dance from the Volcarona, raising up the special attack as well as the special defense, and of course speed. Waterfall coming from the Gyarados, that is actually going to be super effective onto the Volcarona and just be able to one-shot that thing. I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't have Terra Grass, quite frankly, or even Terra Water would be kind of cool. Hugo then decides to bring out their Clefable, and of course, being a Fairy-type Pokemon, it does resist quite a few things from the Medicham. Now, of course, we do have the ability to swap out some Pokemon here. I don't really think Serperior being on the field is really that great for the Gyarados, so I am kind of trying to decide if I'm going to actually swap out to a different Pokemon. Now, of course, you do see on the party there that there's an Indeedee and an Armarouge. That is basically for the whole PsySpam scenario. However, this is the very first time I'm using this team, and with Regulation H stuff, this was before the regulation actually came out. And of course, Medicham has avoided the attack from the opposing Pokemon, and Clefable goes for the Cosmic Power. That is going to actually sharply raise the defense and special defense. And of course, we have the Medicham here going for the Trick Room. And as you guys know, with the whole PsySpam scenario with the Armarouge and Indeedee, that's basically so that way it can actually be able to attack first. Normally you would pair it as well with the whole Psychic terrain, but we didn't actually get that set up here at this time. So I'm pretty much thinking to myself, okay, well, you know what, most Armarouges end up going for the Heat Wave anyways. It looks like the Clefable is actually slower than most of these, so it probably wasn't that smart to set up the Trick Room to begin with. Here's the Heat Wave. That is actually going to be able to pick up the KO on the Serperior, but Clefable's just chilling like a villain over there and just being able to take any hit that comes its way. Cosmic Power is a really good choice of an attack onto Clefable, especially if you're going to eventually try to stall with it or try to be able to support with it. Getting a little bit of leftovers there from the item that it's holding, of course. Leftover Chinese food. Obviously, there's never any leftover Thai food. That stuff is gone in an instant. King Gambit comes in here, and of course, King Gambit is a pretty slow Pokemon. So, one thing that I can remember with King Gambit is that it usually does have Sucker Punch, and I don't really feel like losing any of my Psychic Pokemon here at this time. So I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I'm going to swap out, I'm going to go to the Indeedee to set up the Psychic Surge, so that way I can't get hit by the actual Sucker Punch and get knocked out. And then I'm thinking about also as well going for the Terra Grass here, and then going for like a Heat Wave, because I feel like I'm going to get hit by something crazy. I feel like I need to actually swap my typing. Now, we do have a Psychic Seed onto the Indeedee, so that's actually going to boost up our special defense. I don't really think that's going to help us here in this situation with a King Gambit, because those are pretty physical attacking Pokemon. So as you guys can see here, there's the Armarouge going for the Terra Grass, and we should be able to resist some moves that may be coming our way. Now, of course, Hugo here is going in for the Terrestrialization on their own, and they're actually going to go into the Flying type with their King Gambit. Now, that is very Regulation A to go with the Terra Flying. You don't want to get hit by any kind of ground type moves or really any kind of fire moves. I've seen King Gambits go for things like flying, ground. I've seen them go dark. I've seen them go water. I've seen them go all sorts of different types, but flying seems to be one of the more common ones. Of course, Clefable ends up going in for the attack there onto the Indeedee, and it does some decent damage. Still hanging on there, Clefable is chilling like a villain over there. We do have the possibility to either go for another Follow Me or go for the attack with the Dazzling Gleam. Obviously, it's not really going to do anything to clefable. So we're just going to go for the follow me here. We're going to redirect some attacks into the Indeedee. There is the Moonblast that is actually going to be able to pick up the KO onto the Indeedee, which is unfortunate, because then that leaves us open to being able to be hit by the King Gambit eventually. Here we go with the Expanding Force. That's actually fantastic that it can pick up the KO on the King Gambit. King Gambit's one of those Pokemon you don't really want to play around with. Clefable is still hanging on there, and we are losing a little bit of health there from the Life Orb that we actually have. Now, of course, Clefable does still have the leftovers, so it is slowly regaining health there as we go through. We do have 3 Pokemon down on Hugo's side. Clefable still hanging on strong. There are still 2 Pokemon remaining on the opposing side. Now, we do have Trick Room up, of course, and it looks like Quaquaval is actually going to come onto the field here. Nice shiny Quaquaval. I've never actually seen that Pokemon shiny yet, so that's kind of interesting. We end up coming in with a Gluttony... not a Gluttony. Yeah, Gluttony Snorlax. So we're going to kind of try to play around with this idea here for a little bit. I haven't really used Snorlax very much since, probably Gen 5 to 7. It hasn't really come up very much in any of my more recent battles. Looks like there's going to be the Moonlight there on the Fable, actually regaining some health. Expanding Force is actually going to be able to pick up the KO on the Quaquaval. Probably not the best choice to come in during the Trick Room era, just because it is more of a very fast-paced Pokemon. Of course, Clefable is still regaining some health, and of course, the dimensions have returned to normal. Now, we did lose our Indeedee, so we can't set up any kind of a Trick Room here now. We do have Medicham. We can still come in with that and set up a Trick Room. That's pretty much a decent idea. However, I think we really need to swap out the Snorlax and go to the Gyarados. Try to get an Intimidate off, lower the attack stat of the Sneasler. This is actually one of the first few times that I've ever actually battled Sneasler, and I've got it recorded here, so that's pretty cool. Not a very common Pokemon for me to really battle against. Even in today, I haven't really seen too much. I did see a lot more in the Grand Challenge, and that'll be coming up here in some more videos there later on. But in comes the Dire Claw, and that's actually able to pick up the KO onto the Armarouge. Of course, it is a physical-based move, and I'm just not able to survive. Just don't have enough effort values in defense. Okay, here's the Moonlight from the Clefable. Clefable is regaining its health there back almost to full. Pretty much I need to have a physical attacker come in and just kind of dish out some massive damage to that thing, or, you know, even if I could get like a Toxic off onto it, if I did have that, that'd be pretty awesome, but I'd have to watch out for like Magic Guard and all that good stuff. Clefable's definitely a big threat when used properly. So we do have a few Pokemon here that we can bring out against the Sneasler and the Clefable. One of those we're bringing back in the Medicham. I'm really hoping that Medicham is going to be able to do something here for me at some point. We end up going in with our attack for Clefable, and then we've chosen likely the Fake Out here onto the Sneasler, or the Close Combat in this case. I was thinking that Sneasler was probably a Dark type, just because of the whole Weavile scenario, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's fighting in Poison? Is it? Or fighting in, or is it? No, I think it's Poison and Dark. Yeah, Poison and Dark. I think it was just pure Dark, but I don't know. Anyway, we get a little bit of special defense fall there, that's okay. We do have plenty of other Pokemon there. The Moonlight picking up the KO with a Medicham. Honestly, I'm using a lot of Pokemon that I don't normally use. Like, for one, Gyarados. I don't really use Gyarados just because of the 4 times weak to electricity. Medicham is not really my choice of a fighting type Pokemon. But, you know what, I thought I'd give a couple of different teams a try, and I actually loaded my rentals up with a bunch of different teams there for that stream. We bring in Snorlax here again, and of course, you know, with the Gyarados, we do have the Iron Head, we have the Waterfall. I decided to go for the Waterfall into the Sneasler, and then of course we ended up going in for, if I'm not mistaken, I think Protect the Snorlax. And of course, we're not going to be able to get hit by anything that turn. Okay, there's the Dire Claw. Gyarados gets hit, and it actually ends up putting the Gyarados to sleep. Now, at this point, I actually was like, what the heck is going on here? But, you know, as you battle with Sneasler over and over and over again, tend to see what they tend to do. Sometimes it's poison, sometimes it's, you know, sleeping. It's a whole bunch of craziness. So anyways, clefable still getting a little bit of lefties there, going for the cosmic powers. This thing is just not going to want to go down for me here. It's just like taunting me. That's something I should have probably done to the clefable when I had the Gyarados, is probably go for the taunt. Obviously right now I'm kind of debating on what I'm going to be able to do. I'm trying to think of all of my options. I end up sending Snorlax back to the party and bringing in King Gambit here. Now, is that really the smartest choice considering that there's a Sneasler out here that can get the close combat? Probably not. But follow me coming in from the clefable. There's the Dire Claw, going to pick up the KO onto the Gyarados, and we're not in a very good situation here. We pretty much just have Snorlax and King Gambit left. We have no Trick Room, so obviously we're slower. Sneasler does have the potential of having some fighting type moves, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little bit concerned. Definitely for sure. Snorlax coming in, you know, that big belly coming out. We can go for an Earthquake here, but we're going to risk hitting our King Gambit. And then, of course, you know, pretty much we just have the Body Slam. We have a Protect. I should have probably Belly Drummed, maybe. But pretty much my only option here right now is pretty much the Iron Head into maybe the Clefable. I really wanted to try to take out that Sneasler. And, you know what, I really probably should have gone towards the Clefable. But here we are. So we're going for the Protect onto the Snorlax. There's the Close Combat coming in. I knew I wasn't really going to be able to outspeed Sneasler. And, of course, we actually get the knockout on our King Gambit. So that pretty much just leaves Snorlax left. And really, what's Snorlax going to be able to do to Clefable and Sneasler? Maybe get paralysis of some kind, but realistically, that Sneasler is just going to be able to outspeed Snorlax. So realistically here, this is pretty much game. Now, of course, I never run from a battle, so I obviously opt into going in for the Earthquake here to be able to try to hit the two Pokemon at once, but my opponent ends up canceling. I assume that's because they figure it's a win. So good game,